I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with...
Teddy.
And we're here on the front lines in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own stupid reasons. How's it going, Tank?
Everything is great. I spoke to Kim today, and she gave me some great clarity and advice on some of the lawful processes pertaining to the vaccine lawsuit. She endorsed the National Liberty Alliance. She actually recommended them to me, and and I was like, yes, I'm aware. Which she knows, but she's very busy. So, and also with Kim's conversations, always good to keep in mind that every time Kim picks up the phone, she is a tactician. So she's broadcasting to every nation, every intelligence agency, every treasury, every group in the world. So to have a conversation with her, you kind of got to have some background to know, she's not just talking to you. And so that was good news. Also, she gave me some insight into what's going on in Chicago, right? So you basically have a situation right now where you have, the Order of the Black Sun that is warring against some faction of, or some, I'm not sure where it fits in with the Rothschilds, because these groups, as far as I can tell, are the same, but some faction of the Rothschilds and these two groups warring against each other, have obviously devoured each other somewhat. But you have there in Chicago, right? It's the abomination. In the Bible, I think they call it the abomination of desolation, right? And it's kind of what you have there. So you have all your police corrupted, your politicians, anybody that you think would protect people and children. They're all part of the Islamic Caliph, right? Which is the Order of Assassins. And the Order of Assassins is an ancient order of monks that were obsessed with death, right? They worshipped death. And this is where you get the offshoots.
Doesn't it go back to, isn't it the same story of Aladdin's lamp? That same order of assassins that were,
it might be. My extent of my knowledge on Aladdin is from the Disney movie.
Sure. Well, I mean,
so,
it's basically, and the genie is obviously, part of the same, the jinns, right?
It's a jinn, right? Yeah.
Right? So they're worshiping death,
Right. And the jinn were enslaved by, Solomon and all these different things to guard the gold or stuff like that. So, I mean, I know all those things connect somehow. I'm not sure exactly, but this ancient order, I actually, coincidentally, I was researching it a few weeks ago, and they honored death. They were masters in the art of death, and they studied it and observed and always that's where you get the ideas of to die a heroic death, right? That you hear about in different movies. You'll see that principle, right? Like the Klingons, things like that, right? So basically, this order of assassins, Barack Obama is a part of it, although they'll claim to hate him, right? And this order of assassins is what is there is this group that is essentially solely committed to the acts of death, which then goes back to the group that I was talking to a few months ago, with this woman who I realized was in all likelihood trying to infiltrate us, right? Trying to get us to contribute and participate. She was decoding these different Illuminati assassins. And she described growing up under, and these are covens, right? So what it basically is you have two covens. And one is the Order of the Black Sun. And the other one is Rothschild. But Kim might actually give me a name, and it escapes me right now. But basically it's two covens, right? And so the Black Widow, who's like the head of the Order of the Black Sun, I was speaking to her granddaughter, was actually who I was talking to, and she was describing how, once a month, for like 10 years, sometimes she was 3 years old or 4 years old, sometimes she was 13 or 14, how she witnessed 1,000 deaths a month, right? Sacrifices and all types of things. And she also said that she every night would sit down and talk to her grandma and Satan. So that was a
over tea.
What's that?
I said over tea.
Yeah, I would imagine, something like that. Probably hot cocoa, she was low. So, because I'm sure Satan's just a peach up front, right? So, so anyways, but she, now she's gone the way of the Lord, right? So everything is, the Lord guiding me this way, and the Lord guiding me that way. Which, when you understand kind of where all these ritualistic ideas come from, right? It's heartbreaking sometimes for people to hear this, but, when you look at what has happened, Christianity, all of the rituals in Christianity, they're all, they're all satanic binding ceremonies, right? That's why they celebrate the death of the Messiah rather than, the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, right? These are two very different things, although they're used commonly interchangeably with one another, but they're not the same thing, right? If you focus only on the death of, the one that you consider to be your Savior, then how could you be saved, right? So, but so like whenever people, so kind of a natural transition for, people in this group, right, is to go into a new type of subservience and slavery, in the, slavery,
the other side of the other side of the yin yang, right? So you go from one.
Well, but in reality, it's the same, right? That's why in the Bible it's just riddled with, Jesus, 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 right? Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. When in reality, it says the Messiah's name was Emmanuel, right? But, Lord Marduk, or Anu, Lord Anu, right, is the one who added all that language in there of subservience and, and kind of modified those experiences so that we look at God as this, that we should fear God rather than recognize God, respect God, love God, because that's what's in us, right? Because, or look within to the,
there's more than two sides, but yin yang, and I'm bringing it up is that it's the same coin, right? You just have two sides to it, so you go run from one side to the other, you're still in the same system. So that's kind of the point. So you've got Marduk as Lord on both sides.
Yeah, it's a two-headed coin, right?
Right. So,
but I mean, but that's why you have the imbalance, right? Because even the things that you would look to for, because I would say, a majority of people that are devoutly Christian are just lovely people, right? They just want to do the right thing, and they're doing all they can to do that. So, and that can't be negated. So, it becomes sensitive, but I'm not trying to, cast away the belief systems or those things. It's just, but it's more than rituals, I mean, the Catholic Church is the most obvious with, in Christianity, right? So many rituals, so many things, designed to basically make them servants to sin and death versus love and light, so to speak, right? So, but anyway, so the reason why I mentioned it is because, she her answer was the Lord, right? So she was in this place, she got thrown in an open grave, which led to the catacombs in this ancient church somewhere in, Elgin, right, which is like a city in Cook or Kane County in that area, right? So it's this really old church, and she got thrown in there, and she got lifted up by the Lord, right? But I mean, the more I listened to her and I watched their behavior, I was like, oh, I think the Lord she's talking about is actually the devil, right? Like Lord Marduk type stuff, right? So, and I don't necessarily know that she meant harm, but she was clearly, somebody was using her to try to infiltrate us and, get us to basically confess our subservience to them, right? So they needed help with something, and like they were kind of being harassed by fake police from Kamala Harris. So I made some calls on it and got a squash for them, right? So they stopped, they backed off, and they sent out a different email saying, hey, we're not going to pursue this time, And you think like, wow, they'd probably be grateful, but so what happened was they hit me up with an email, which I recognized to be like a test email, right, to see if their spell took. So I think they were just trying to cast a spell on you, right? Mm-hmm. So you do a favor for the devil, you say, well, now he's in debt to you, but it doesn't work that way. So, so basically, the email started out with, hey, whatever you're doing, you have to stop it. As soon as I read that, I was like, nope. I'm like, you come at me after I just did you a favor, and you try to see if now you have control of me, right? That's kind of how it works. So, I saw it immediately, and then they were very mad at Michelle. They were like, Tank did that for you, not for us. And they're right. Because Michelle I'm invested in, like I've seen enough for her to know her integrity, right? Mm-hmm. So that messed up their whole plan, believe it or not. Just because my intention was just because Michelle was freaking out, she was panicked, she was trying to help. Yeah, I knew she was trying to do the right thing. So just fascinating stuff, right? Now that same group is from the same area that we're now helping on a totally different issue, right? Which is the abomination, right? So just fascinating stuff. Even if there's some pieces in there that are not, exact, it's the same principle, and that's what matters, really, in my opinion. So,
you've got some scratchy noises going on.
Yeah, it's winter time here, so as soon as I get my winter jacket on, I scratch.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay, all right. Just in case you did not know.
Yeah, no, I'll be careful now.
Oh, let me turn off my air conditioner. Hang on. I'm joking, obviously.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while since I've seen snow. So. Yeah.
We haven't had a good snow here in New York really in a while, though. At least not in the city. Not a good one that was like, there's no place to go sled riding in the city,
Well, I think all the hellfire burning in New York City is keeping the snow away. It melts before it gets there.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. Yeah, there's a lot of all types of evil gearing up. Yeah. So what else I talked to Kim about? Kim gave me some really amazing insight and direction on the vaccine case that were grievances that were filing, and how to actually make that stick and actually turn it into law. And that's very exciting to me. What else is there? And about that. Yeah, and then some other stuff that I can't really talk about right now, but.
Well, let me talk about something then.
Sure, please, yeah.
Just before we started talking today, I was watching a Glenn Beck episode about AI and 5G with a gentleman, I believe his name was Jeff Brown, and obviously he was very knowledgeable, and they wanted to talk about the issues, and I know that there's a lot of people in our group that are fearful of both AI and 5G. And I would say it would be a good idea to watch this. It just came out today. To put yourself at ease about it. And we can talk a little bit about what, just sum up what was saying. Let's say first 5G.
Oh.
So in 5G, everyone's worried that, we're going to be, barbecued, at will. And this is, I think, what they wanted to represent in this is that dogma that's coming out from this is all coming from the competitors of the United States, not wanting the United States to go 5G. So these horror stories and things like that they're all basically coming from China. It's part of the same stuff that they're using, trying to program us through fear, right? It's fear porn. More fear to get people away from wanting it to come in. So fighting 5G from happening. So the examples that he was saying, how much more beneficial 5G is, and he said, yeah, you don't want to have one of these towers, in your bedroom, right? And just as the same, you don't want to put your phone to your head every time you're having a phone call, right? It's good to use speakerphone, keep it away from you. Use earphones. It doesn't. He said wired or unwired earphones doesn't matter. It's the device itself has higher rates. So you want to worry. So if you want to take some precautions, though there is no evidence that causes any problems. The evidence, as he was saying, is all coming from the competitors. But what 5G will give you in this extra speed is the ability for, let's say, the autonomous vehicles to drive themselves. And then that gets into the AI question, right? And where things go from there within the AI community is that, that if you have all these vehicles driving around it and they're controlling how all this all happens, there's no room for people, like say on the highways, right, to drive. Because you're actually bringing in more variables that could cause a problem, right, with the AI, right, to try and calculate your reactions compared to all the stuff that's then controlled, where everybody knows where they're going, and it's all automated, and you don't have to worry about it. And it says that will decrease the deaths by I think it's at 97%. I think that's what the number was. It was in the 90s. And though there are some issues, these are common ethical issues that come about, that even if you take classes in morality and ethics, they'll use the same problems to say, well, if you have like two children on the left, all right, and two grandmothers on the right, and the car is going to hit one of them, it has to steer away. One group is going to go, right? Which one do you program? Is it based upon the future earnings potential of the individuals? Obviously, then the young people survive, right? Is it based upon other kind of issues? Then maybe the two grandparents survive. So these are these same ethical dilemmas we have, right? His I didn't like his answer, was, well, you let the AI decide because it has such a deep learning. We don't, and understands patterns that we have no idea. We'd have to allow them. And I said, well, I mean, when he said that. Now this is where and everything he said was wonderful except for this one point, was let the AI decide. I think if you let the AI decide, right, and take your hands off, remove your responsibility because you don't want to make the decision, the AI will end up making all decisions. And I think that's where the problem lies. But that's another note. But I think that to point out that the advantages that come out of AI and 5G are really this far outweigh all the fear that's being sent us, and it's all coming from China. It's the Chinese elders, another psyop against the America or the West, however you want to put it, to keep people dumbed down. Oh, by the way, the Earth is flat.
I would argue on that
that the Earth is flat.
AI,
oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
The AI is just, as far as artificial intelligence, right? It's real intelligence, so to speak, in the quantum reality of all possibilities are happening all the time, right? So if all possibilities are happening at all the time, then having a device or a need to make a decision in and of itself puts us in a place where it's like, well, we have now chosen. that we are inferior, and so that puts us on an entirely different timeline. So I tend to agree. The actual act of free will, is constantly putting us onto, an infinite number of timelines that Kim describes as like a layer cake, right? That are happening, coexisting simultaneously, and they converge in and out based on and then one decision to kind of put you, like many decisions have been made to put us on a timeline that was catastrophic, right? So to bring that back to one where we actually survive has taken a lot of very carefully considered decisions, right?
Right.
And in the idea of of every quantum particle is that it affects both the present, the past, and the future. So every decision we make essentially puts us in a different place in this timeline, right? But it's all us, right? We're coexisting, experiencing all things, right? Kind of a multi-dimensional reality we exist in. So, I think a lot of the hype, it comes down to, what are we giving our energy to, right? Because, like I've always, and I realize this is actually a correction. I think I made my understanding the other day that I saw is, the human heart, right? It's like, everything creates electricity. Every organ, every cell creates its own electrical current, right? Mm-hmm. So the heart actually creates like 100 times more, electrical current than the brain.
Yeah.
Right. So to give all this power to the brain and negate the way we feel is really why the cabal fears us so much, because we are such heart-centered beings, right?
Yes.
We are emotionally centered beings, and we, it's like sales know this, right? That's why when you're selling things, they, I say like people make decisions based on how something makes them feel, right? And it's just more powerful than our logic, right?
Yeah.
So it's like lots of people will make decisions based on logic in relationships, thinking, well, logically, this is the best choice. Meanwhile, they're in love with someone else. So they make a decision logically to be miserable, and they try to suck it up, and then their whole life they consider it regret, wondering what would happen. So
So I would say that in this ethical decision, an answer would be between the two sides. Instead of letting the AI decide, you let God decide. And and that might seem a little bit like, well, how's that going to happen? Well, we can manifest that into programming. In other words, in a we could basically say that when it comes down to those particular decisions, when all else has failed, when all the other calculations have been done, and there's still a choice to be made, you flip a coin, and God knows which side it's going to fall on. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And that way and that means a random number generator or yes no decision making and so that we are, because ultimately you can't program everything, right? But we do have to get to a point where there is know that we're going to move into a world that has electricity in every home. We're going to move into a world where people have cars and they're mobile. We're going to move into a world in which there are computers in everybody's pocket. Or we're going to move into a world where we have the ability to communicate with everyone at all times, around the clock, with anywhere on the planet. All these things are here, right? So,
yeah,
we're going to move into other times, and we're going to survive. It's not going to mean that we're going to fall into a black hole. That we're all going to be barbecued. So the fear out there prevents us from taking steps. The fear of getting out and deciding you were wrong about the GCR stops you still from making steps. You know,
Sure.
there's all these things out there that you will talk yourself out of making those steps. Right, even though you
Right.
know it's obvious, right, that there's something wrong, but you're stuck in this pattern and habit of not making steps.
You know, it reminds me of like, coaches, like, football coaches used to use the term, some people play the game not to lose, but that's not us. We play the game to win, so to speak, right? And our glass half empty, half full kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these things that, or, you can take it a step further and say, well, actually, I would say the glass is always full, right? Sometimes it's filled with air, sometimes it's, filled with water,
There you go. When you were saying that, I was thinking, it's potentially full. It's full of potential.
Yeah, sure, right. So, like, Nancy Pelosi is full of crap, so it's like, but always full.
Yeah.
But I look at, I'm always thinking about these things, when, in the way that we deal with things, right? Because, all potential realities exist, and, making decisions based on what we want to happen, what is possible to happen, and what we believe can happen, really shapes the reality much more dominantly than we realize, and especially right now, because you have this incredible shift that has taken place, at least on a multi-dimensional level, where you have these major forces that have been eliminated, major guiding versions of AI, even if they're not an actual AI system, right? For someone, a lie is essentially artificial intelligence, right? Bad intel is artificial intelligence. The limits that we put on ourselves, that's all artificial, right? It's all artificial intelligence, right? And it's, real intelligence, right, is kind of like the idea of both crystallized and fluid knowledge, understanding, what it is that exists, the absolute knowing of all things, and being able to apply it in a way that is appropriate, right? Like wisdom is the judicious application of knowledge, right? And the more wise decisions you make, the more wisdom you appear to have, and it's just by applying, a large array of knowledge in an appropriate way. So, but it's like a never-ending philosophical debate about these things. So it doesn't, you also have to ask yourself just on a practical standpoint. And I think it's a good principle for anybody to use, as things confuse you and, frustrate you in the world, it's always good to go back to the human body, right? And I remember this, anybody who ever took biology, 8th grade biology, you know that what they would tell you, like for the major exams, like if you don't know the answer, right? There's always like 4 parts, right? You don't know it. One of the answers is always it works to maintain homeostasis in the body, right? So everything works to maintain balance. So when there's an imbalance in the body, there has to be a correction. So that's why there really is never a void. If there's anything if a void is created immediately, instantaneously, something fills it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and that's why even the I was saying to you off air that with AI, it's programmed, right? So even if you have the most evil of the dark sun or the whoever bloodline family, the most evil programmers that ever existed in a room, and they come up with this AI, diabolical AI, it won't end up being that way, because ultimately things will seek a balance. So it will swing. That AI will swing to the other side, right? And it will end up coming into balance, because that's just the nature of things. No matter how much you want to fight that, that's part of what the cabal's all about, right? Is putting man ahead of nature, or the balance in nature, that they can control everything. The idea of magic, that they're able to just have everything within their control, and it must be their way. Because even though they do have success in doing that in a way, because they create these structures, but all of them come to an end. They all end up reversing themselves, no matter which way and the pendulum will swing to the other end, and then it will come into balance. All right. But that's that is part of nature in itself. Is the aspect of a man trying to control everything, right? So that can also come into balance. There's things that you do want to set up to have controls. You want to sometimes put a stoplight there at an intersection, or maybe you just want a stop sign. So you try to control things, but there's it adapts, right? And sometimes you remove the stop sign and the stoplight, right? Because it ends up working out better.
Right. So, anyways, Ruth Gator, I saw a meme that said that Ruth Ginsburg, whatever it is,
Ruth
Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, Bader. Ruth.
Yeah,
Bader.
that's a name that rolled off the tongue. Yeah, that she died, and that I heard that she's just hospitalized again.
She died again.
Yeah.
How many times is she going to die before they replace her?
Well, I would imagine that everybody's trying to keep her alive on the on the dark side, I guess, on the Empire side. So they're trying to, keep her there in position so that she can block or whatever she's doing. I mean, I don't know what she's actually contributing at this point, other than just preventing the Supreme Court from becoming very conservative.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's already conservative now, but one more seat in that direction, and who knows? Who knows what happens with the others at that time? Even I could say Roberts is not going to last at the end of this, because he's obviously compromised, right? And at some point he's going to have to be removed, right? Because he can't be there in his compromised state.
Yeah, no, I guess not. I don't follow the Supreme Court that much, to speak on it, very well, But I still stand by, the highest court in the land is the people, and the court of public opinion is what is shaping the reality we live in, and they are obviously, they love the fame and the glory thing, right? Right. So what I'm really appreciating the example that President Trump is setting and now Nunez is setting is when these various media outlets post something that clearly is portraying a false message to the people, that they're suing them, and Nunez has got he's got lawsuits filed, right, already. Like, he immediately took action about a false report where they completely portrayed an inaccurate statement based on a rumor that was shopped around to like 6 different networks, and then CNN ran with it, so he's suing them. I also love that the young man, I can't remember his name, but the young man who was confronted by this Native American group, right, and handled himself like a perfect gentleman. I mean, it was videotaped by all these kids, right? He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't attack them. He was smeared and just, demolished by all these different media outlets, right? All these, and it really just shows. Love the sirens. Yeah. Lots of emergencies here tonight. It just shows how, the news has gone for the most part, right? The news comes out from sources like us, like when we're reporting what we're hearing, we're reporting what we can confirm, and then like if we're wrong, we actually come out and say to media, like, no, we had that wrong. This is what it is. Right. Which is what should happen with the mainstream, so that people are more educated, right? Right. And instead, you have people that are protesting based on principles on something they saw. They've never read the transcript, but they heard ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN all say the same lie over and over again, like, President Trump, this is what's happening. There's just one guy, I can't, so funny. he makes everything seem so dramatic. I'm like, he's great at his job. He's like, now, President Trump, this actually happened. I mean, this is what's going on, right? Very serious, very impressive, right? So like the whole protest will go on because people don't actually do any research, right? So they care enough to go like to the print store to make signs up and take time out of their day. But then when people go to interview and why are you protesting President Trump? Like, because of the lies, because he always lies. And there's this journalist out there, like citizen journalist, who's like, what's the one lie that really makes you mad about President Trump? And they were like, well, I don't know. And they called their husband over or wife, right? Like, what's one of the lies? And then they start talking about stuff. They just sound stupid, right?
Right.
They start talking about, like, well, no, I saw it. I've been watching it very carefully. And let me ask them, did you read the transcript? No, I didn't. But, I've been following it on CNN. It's like, oh, okay, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, there's your problem.
And then, but that's a big issue, right? It's like, wow, yeah. So it's kind of important when people are working, 40 to 60 hours a week, that the mainstream media is telling the truth, so that when they get their 15 minutes of news, that it has some substance to it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, so I think that's great. I think that's very encouraging as far as a sign of the times and what's going on.
Well, I think that young gentleman with the MAGA hat, coming into adulthood as a multi-millionaire, probably with a couple $100 million in ownership over, say, was it? I don't forget which newspaper he's suing. Was it the Washington Post or New York Times?
He's suing definitely the Washington Post and also ABC, CB. I mean, it's like 5 networks. He was cleared on all of them because they were trying to squash it. He couldn't sue them.
Right.
And he got it all. So his lawyers or whoever.
So he'll own them.
Yeah.
and coming into this, and then it'll be interesting to see what he does with his new possessions of these media outlets. Shouldn't this be the case? Where they can be displaced, the people that are in there that cause these problems. I mean, they're the ones lying, right? They made up these stories, right? And they're obviously not news, right? And their license is for being news. They're licensed, and they have they under their licensing, right? They have to perform a public service. If they're not doing that, they don't deserve their licenses.
Right. It's kind of like restaurants, right? Like some restaurants, like Hooters, for example, right? It's like, well, a lot of the
I love their barbecue their buffalo wings.
Yeah, their number one dish is a Dom Perignon and wings, hot wings. But Hooters, right, where obviously they hire, voluptuous, pretty girls, right, to wear very skimpy outfits and serve beer and wings while guys cheer and whatever, right? And the way that they get away with that is they hire models, right? I mean, and literally the position is not called a server; it's actually a model, right? So that allows them to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of look at it in this same vein of, stuff like with the news. It's like, well, as long as we just call it entertainment, it's okay, But as soon as we call it news, now there's a problem. So you can't present yourself as news if you're just entertaining people with your, fictional hatred.
But by the way, I switched the definition of this channel, right, to entertainment.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
It used to be under news and politics or something like that.
Well, I think you can be entertaining news, but
well,
I would say
well, the point is that I'm just looking at their algorithms and things of that, where they're trying to knock people off, right? So, well, you're not news, you're fake news. Well, okay, I'm not claiming to be news.
Right.
Right. It's entertainment. So that's we're entertaining anyway. I think we are.
Yeah, I think so. Most days. Yeah.
Most days, yeah.
So,
You know,
Yeah. So
I still look at that algorithm that basically is showing this clipping of the subscribers, right? It's this sine wave.
yeah, the wave.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, this is so obvious what they're doing, right? And we probably would have been, a couple 100,000 by now. Because we were, if you look at where we were really growing in the first weeks, by the hundreds a day, you know, that that
Right.
that would mean, let's just say 100 times 365. That's 365,000 people.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, not. It's not.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, that's let me do math on it. Yeah, you're probably right. I was saying, well, no, 365 times 1,000 a day would be 365,000.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was off. So
Either way, it's 36,000 more than it is. And not to take away from your point.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. No, I was wrong. I'm so happy that I was wrong.
But you have you have compounding returns, right?
Sure.
It
should be.
Right?
It should be increasing. No, I was thinking we would be in hundreds of thousands. So that by now, that was because there's an exponential function at play here, which, in essence, would put us into 365,000 or at least a couple 100,000 people by now. Just because of the expansion of the people that are watching, and they spread the word. We ask people to spread the word, but instead, people unsubscribe, which is not something that people really do.
Nah, nobody does that, right?
Nobody unsubscribes. So
right. Yeah, but they vary it. It's fine. So yeah, so a lot of stuff going on. I've watched this happen with the RV, with all the hype for years, right? Every holiday had a reason why it was going to happen on that holiday. But Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year, right?
One of mine too. Yeah, I'm trying to find a turkey right now.
Yeah, what's that like in the Philippines? What do they do for Thanksgiving there?
They don't have Thanksgiving.
Same day.
Yeah, they don't have a Thanksgiving here. So.
And I don't know if dragging down a turkey makes sense.
Yeah.
But
there are turkeys here. They're called pavo.
Oh, okay.
Pavo.
Gotcha.
But it's fairly common, to find that they are around on farms. You don't find them in the stores, so you have to find it from a farm.
Yeah. Well, but what I like about Thanksgiving, right, is the whole idea of holidays, right? It's holy days, right? And these are usually connected to some weird pagan, Baelist holiday, right? And they're usually like blood sacrifice, whatever. And maybe there's something like that attached to Thanksgiving too. I don't, who knows? But I just feel like in general, I like the idea of just celebrating, being thankful, and being grateful.
My opinion about the holidays, even though I celebrated all those traditional holidays, American holidays, from Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, they were big holidays, and
sure,
and if there is some like guys in the background laughing, going hoo hoo hoo, they're worshiping our God. They don't even know it. I don't care. I don't care. These guys are stupid. We're getting together. We're having a good time, right? And we should embrace our traditions, not try and demonize them. Right? Turn them into the negative. Right?
We should take them back. Is what we should do. Right?
Take them back. That's right.
Like I love Halloween. I love Halloween. My family and I always my twin boys always coordinate their costumes for something cool. I always my wife and I always coordinate our costumes with our daughter, right? Like we were astronauts this year. She was a spaceship, right? Like, and I just, I see a value in that, and it's something I would probably do more often if it was socially acceptable, just because it's fun, and I just think that's great, So I think it's important to maintain a balance about these things and just kind of, reclaim our holidays, our traditions, make them mean something to us. I ask people this question all the time whenever I meet new people. If they have like a unique name, I'll ask them what their name means, and I'm always looking for them to. Some people know what their name means, but I always look for people to tell me like what their name means based on their own experience, right?
Right.
Because the word name actually means character and reputation, right? What is your character and reputation? What is your walk through life? What does it mean when people hear your name? That's why it's such a big deal when someone defames your character, right? We actually I had my friend David Hayden the other day reach out to Dr. Tenpenny, right, who is this very well-known, reputable physician in reference to vaccines, right? And so she pulled up something to respond to David from like 2017, where this hack website, Dinar Daily, ran a smear on me, right? Now, in this alleged smear, they don't actually say anything that I did wrong, right? They just say it in such a way that you think I did something wrong, which I didn't, And so they're like, oh, he's running a scam, he's doing this. Like, oh, this tells you all you need to know, like all those kind of things, right? And so because people only read things like kind of, on the surface, it's like, well, I have thousands, like literally thousands of conference calls, articles, personal broadcasts. And if you were going to get me on something, wouldn't you be able to get me on my own words? Like we've been public, you and I, for 260 days or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like just our shows alone. Like, if you took one of our shows and used it against me, that'd be different. It's like, well, I guess I said that, right? But even then, it's like, well, obviously, if I was worried about what I'm saying or that I'm saying something wrong, I mean, like I've been told, for a while there, they were always running stuff like, I'm being investigated by the FBI. There's a file on the FBI. It's like, if there's not a file on you from the FBI, you are not doing anything with your life. Because they have a file on everybody. It's like, but they try to portray it as if something happened.
Fear. Throw the fear porn
right.
at you.
Like, oh no, stick with what you know. Stick with the lie you know. Don't take the risk of learning something new. So, but that's unfortunate, right? Because anybody that's ever listened to me talk for any period of time, it's like, I'm not bitter about it at all, but like, I think about it, it's like, I can see how people would get bitter. Because I basically, lost everything that would be considered stable in my life to try to help to change the world, right? To be a part of something that's bigger than myself and willing to do that. I don't have any regrets about that. I have really hard days and weeks at times because of it, right? Like the holidays right now is my least favorite time, and as long as I'm in this state, right? Because you know what, it's a constant reminder of there's people around me constantly reminding me of how I'm failing, right? So and it's tough when you got little kids, which I do. I got 6-year-old and 13-year-old boys that they need stuff.
Right.
So, and I got family that lives, down in South Carolina, like 13 hours away from me. So, who I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. So, but it's just interesting how people will just jump on something, right? So it's so hard for people to discern what's true and what's not. That's why what's happening in the mainstream media as well as the alternative media. It's like we should take responsibility. That's why, like, even when we talk about someone, I think we're pretty consistent with this, Dan. You definitely more than me. But like even like with Able Danger, like I didn't come out and trash Able Danger at all. What I did was I witnessed to my personal experience, which I have the constitutional right to do. Right? I didn't go into any other clandestine thing he's involved in or might be or isn't. And matter of fact, I always balance things to say these are some of the good things he's done. Right?
Yeah.
So I just think it's important that we. That I really think that's where integrity lies, right? Like there's parts of the story that we know, and there's parts that we don't.
Right.
And in sharing both sides of it is really where you can kind of allow people to draw their own conclusions but people don't do that much anymore, right? And the news has become so biased. I mean, my gosh,
Right.
it's just like visceral hatred, and because they realize that President Trump is disrupting their whole reality, and now they're actually being forced to talk about things in different terms, right?
Right.
They're talking about, they replaced the Russian hoax. They were calling it the Russian collusion. Now it's the Russian hoax.
Right. Yeah.
But before that caught on, they started talking about impeachment, right?
Right. And who called it the Russian hoax? It was Trump, right? He was the one he's the one. And who came up with the term fake news?
Exactly. Yep.
So these things are making their way out there. It's because Trump has a very effective tool. It's called the bully pulpit. Right. That was the main function of a president. To take the bully pulpit. I mean, you're going to sit at this at the
they had to see the table.
Yeah.
And you're at the podium.
You're at the podium. That's the word I was looking for. Podium. Yeah. So.
Well, and I think you did a great job with I just appreciate so much Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani is like, as they try to act like they got him, he's like, you don't got anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got whole files showing how Biden and the Obama administration, and Hillary Clinton and Hunter Biden, they're all so deep in a pay-for-play situation that has corrupted our entire world. I mean, it has had global impact, led people to wars over money, over oil, over lies that they think are important, right?
Right.
Hatred that they think is real. I mean, how convenient is it that this, the radical Islam, right, the Islamic Nation, that whenever you have an interview with one of the leaders, they're wearing a mask, right? Because you don't know who that is. It could be anybody.
Right.
Actors. We know this happens. Like, this is a real.
Yeah, it was
thing,
John. Right? It was John McCain in a mask saying, "This is how you do it."
Right. And I remember this for anybody who followed the RV, right? So Yosef, right, this character, he had 9 different names that he wrote articles under, right, on Intelligence Chronicles, right? And he was a decent writer, right? And so he would change characters, right, to bring out information for or against his own stuff, right? So he would create a controversy. He'd be very provocative in his own language, right? And then he'd create another character, and he'd come out with what is it? He had an Army Ranger guy, right, that he created, right? And the Army Ranger would say this, and then another guy would say this, and and they were all him, and I knew they were him, and not many people did, right? And but they were all him, responding to himself, having an argument with himself, right?
Well, who won?
Which, nobody. I did.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, congratulations! You were up against great odds there.
Yeah. So
you were outnumbered.
I've actually thought about doing that before, right? Because it's so effective. It's such an effective way to, create the illusion that so many people are interested in what you're saying. It actually creates more interest. But people love controversy.
Right.
But I've always, for the sake of integrity, I've made it a point to always write in my name. Always. It is what it is. Each his own.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not exactly prolific in my writing, but I've written a few articles. I end up writing more in regards to I don't even call it blogs, but the Telegram groups of responding to questions. Sometimes I'm very lengthy in my response, but there are I look for I'll have people in the group that are completely opposed to say a point of view that I have, and some people will that are will be cheering me on, but they'll say, "Hey, get that guy out of here! Just delete them, right? Ban them from the group." And I say, no, everyone has an opinion. It's okay as long as people are respectful, right? And it's okay to have different opinions, right? And it's better to try and convince those people, right, to see your point of view than to basically just cut everybody out, right? You want to be able to go ahead and represent these opposing opinions, because that brings out the issues, right? It brings more clarity to both sides if you talk about it, right? So you have to,
totally.
You have to have that. So, but I never thought about doing it, against myself. But turn my hat around and pretend I'm someone else. All right, let's see. I'm now the ranger, and I'm going to respond. I don't think I could go down that line.
Well, it also gives you I have some core groups, right? I mean, I have a lot of Intel groups and chat rooms and all types of different venues that I use, WhatsApp to Telegram to different groups online, and I'm active, regularly with my core team, every day with like about 5 groups. But then I have all these tertiary groups, right? But I had one of my core groups a while back that I had, and there was an individual in there who I knew for a fact was slandering me, right? He was writing articles to slander me, and I knew it from the very first article he wrote. That was him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never kicked him out of the room. I allowed him to stay in, right? And what happened was, like, my team, when they figured it out, they're like, hey, this guy is the one writing these articles, right? Like, we need to get him out of the group. I said, no. I'm like, I've known that forever. It's fine. Because what he would do is he would present all the things I was saying in that group, right? And then he would try to spin them to mean something else.
Mm-hmm.
But what he did was he actually took the opposition and he forced them to hear what I was saying, and it was hard to really say that what I was saying was what he was trying to imply I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually worked to our favor.
Right.
And then over time, he actually did come around. That doesn't always happen, because if they're just kind of like paid opposition, right? Which I've had chat rooms like that too, like where they were much more aggressive. That people were there, they were paid, they were CIA operatives, right? I actually intercepted the email where the CIA gave instructions to the head of one of these chat rooms I was in. And they were told, the operative was told to smear my reputation, right, and discredit Tank.
Right.
So, and then after they did that, after they demolished me, they found that because so many people listened to me, that what ended up happening was they actually made me an offer to come back. And so they were recruiting me for the CIA. Like, look, we'll give you all the intel, we'll do this. And I was like, go suck out an egg, man. Like, forget you guys. I'm not doing that. So, but I think it's better to keep the information valuable, right, by keeping it circle tight.
Well, there was this just happened a couple months ago. I brought up, we've kind of talked about it, but there was this group they called KLT. Or Kringle Pay, Kringle Liquid Token, right? So they presented an idea. Now these were a group that that I've heard were built a different different scams, right? And they infiltrated my group, and they came in and they come in as a big team, right? And they're having a conversation back and forth, right? To lure people to say, hey, I heard about this, and back and forth, and get people intrigued into going and seeing what it's all about. And they try and build it up, and it was actually a well-laid plan, right? That could have really engulfed a major amount of members of the community, and they would have lost money, definitely. Right, so I could have, just banned them from the group, right? But then everyone was already leaving and going over into that group, and they all would have fell for it, right? Because it was very enticing, and it seemed, but I had to draw them out and I kept asking questions, right? And by asking questions, I drew out. Got the other people to ask the same questions, to where at the very end, after say almost 2 months of this, right, where they and if I make anything that was defining, a defining moment of clarity, they change what they were doing. Say, oh, we're not doing that. We're doing this, right?
Right.
Right. So I just let it play out to the point where they were going to launch, and then I came out and I did a video and I did a Zoom call and I brought people in. And I said, and then I talked about it. I said, this is what they're doing, and this is why it's not what they say, right? And I laid it out for everybody and I put it up there. Within 3 days, that everybody left that group. The chatter in the group, which was about 1,000 messages a day, and they had like 38,000 Kringle members in their group, and they built that up in I don't know 5 days, something like that. 38,000, so it just filled out, right? And so
Right.
and then about 1,000 messages a day coming in. Now it dropped down to less than 20 messages a day, and it was all automated responses. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so literally, because but it was worth allowing them to be there, and I still didn't ban any one of them except for their leader, which I said that's fine, you can discuss it here, don't give any links. That's my main rule for this. You can't link people out of the group to go to your deal, right? So if you do
Sure.
that, I warned him like 3 times, and then I said, okay, well, then his people that he sent in, there was like 5 that came in the next day. all said, okay, let's play the game. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, the point is that. It's a learning moment at the same time, like what you were doing, right? You ended up getting that these your points reinforced, right? More
Right.
clear, right? Through the
Yeah.
controversy of talking it out, right? So that's what's missing also out of the mainstream media, right? There is no opposition point, right?
Right.
It's only their dogma, right? Their talking points.
Yeah. And anytime you see that, I mean, anytime you see just what appears to be a complete lapse in logic, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why are you still? It's like there's clearly you're pandering, right? Like, it's like you want someone's attention, so you keep telling them they're a great singer, right? And meanwhile, mirrors are breaking when they start to sing, right? It's like, you think they have some power, so you want to be on their good side, you want to fit in. And I do think that there is a part of an undeveloped soul or personality that will, stay in that place sometimes for a lifetime. But I think that as you become more confident in who you are and what you're doing, what you stand for, that you don't care as much about what, people's, sidebar opinions are of you, or if they say something negative about you. Because for the most part, if you stand in your integrity all the time, right? Like you don't have a fake person, like who you are at home and who you are, the role you play on TV, and those two people are the same, right? Then when those two people are the same person, then
right.
What ends up happening is if someone goes to talk about you, people don't think less of you, they think less of that person.
Right.
Like, why would you ever talk? Like, all they do is this. Why would you say that, right? Like when people were bashing Kanye West. Now, I wasn't a fan of Kanye West because I didn't like his arrogance before. He's like, I'm a genius, right? But I've been watching him for the past year. He's a year and a half, 2 years even. He's been going through this transition. You know what? And I'm a believer that people can change. So why wouldn't I be thrilled when I see someone going through that change?
Yeah.
And doing what they see to be the best thing they can do to make a difference. And that's the path he's on. So, is it what I would do? No. Is there still flaws with, bringing people to the altar for whatever? Yeah, sure there is. But you know what? I definitely rather have him talking about that than big booty hoes, drinking 40, whatever else he was rapping about, right? And talking about how he's a god and he's a genius. It's like, it's much more impactful, to have someone, unifying people and preaching to them with a very, using their gifts to do something good.
It's also interesting that he found that there was something more than where he was, right? Doing what he was doing was he found was not he was not being fulfilled by it, right? So he was still searching, and when he found what a truth, a truth about things, and then he changed, and that's what we need. We need people to realize a truth when they're following lies.
In Kanye West, actually, there's an article, and it might have been fake, but I remember when it came out, I thought it was so interesting that Kanye West, people thought he was going crazy because he came out and said that he was a starseed and he was sent here to help change the world. And I was like, maybe Kanye's hanging out with the wrong people, because if you would have said that in our group, we would have been like, yeah, man, that makes sense. Come on.
Yeah, he was just in the wrong. Hey, Kanye, you're welcome to come on. We can have a conversation about transformations.
By the way, people have reached out to me about Dr. Ryan, and Dr. Ryan is a true chiropractor, right? Meaning, because true chiropractic actually is inclusive of acupuncture and the principles of using meridians to move the energy in the body, as well as the nervous system, and then adjusting the spine combined, right? And he's really impressive, right? And he was talking about how he can get rid of PTSD instantly, right? And which I think is almost unheard of. So some people did reach out to me, and I didn't really have an appropriate response for them at the time because I didn't want to overwhelm him, But since then, Dr. Ryan has come on board and really just been dynamic and become a real contributor. And he's been working with our team to clear us, to help our team. And he's actually able to do some of these things remotely, which is amazing.
And when is he going to be in the Philippines?
He doesn't need to be. He can, easily adjust you.
Really? Those are long fingers.
Yeah. No, Dan. You're ruining my point, Dan. But seriously, he's great, and he really gives you a scientific understanding of how it works. And he's very much based in logical practice and application of things. And I got to tell you, it's done wonders for me and for my team. And I've been getting cleared, energy clearings with, people have been on our calls with Faye, and about my, my energetic superhero Shilea friend who I've been working with them every day for a year and a half. So for me to say that, I feel like I'm coming from a place of you can trust it because he's doing great. So if anybody out there, particularly with veterans who are really dealing with things with PTSD, and also he is a chiropractor who does not believe that you should charge for these things, right? Because he's like, this is something that it's a technique he can teach, right? And he really wants to be able to teach it, right? So that's what we're gonna work with him on as being part of Create Change. But in the meantime, as we wait for the money, I don't think that we all have to just wait. There's nothing worse, in my opinion. I think there's nothing that aggravates me more than when people say, be patient. I'm like, stop it. I hate that. The hospitals are filled with patients waiting for a cure, waiting for someone else to do
stop
something.
waiting.
Yeah. Just be patient. I think you need to be patient with this. It's not God's timing. It's like, listen, I understand in the world where you have God only outside of you, and you are just some kind of piece of clay that exists. That's not how my world exists. I know God's in me. So, the spirit in me, the God in me, isn't talking about let's wait. Right. So anyways, in the meantime, he's available and he's been helping my team, and I'm not going to let people flood him because he's already doing us a service. But because he doesn't think people should be charged for this, he had to get a different career. So he has his own tractor trailer or something, right? He drives truck, right? But he's an actual certified chiropractor, right? Which I love that, by the way, because I love people that are experts in one thing and they go a different way. I'm a certified art teacher in New York State, right? And then I'm also certified in sports nutrition and certified diabetes care specialist, and I'm also certified to sell life insurance. I've done 1,000 things. I think that's
So it sounds to me like you're certifiable.
Certifiable, absolutely, all the time. So, but anyways, my point is, excuse me for not making it more efficiently, but is for people out there who have someone in their life or they themselves personally are suffering with some form of PTSD. You can email me directly at Stephen Rowe, STEFFENROWE, at gmail.com. And if you email me there and you just put in there in the title, just for the subject line, just put PTSD. And then just put PTSD, and then I know that's veteran related. So, and then I will call you and discern for myself. And I understand that people are like, who are you to judge? It's like, well, I'm the one with a connection. So I'm going to siphon through that.
You're the one to judge.
But I want to put that out there that, I want to let people know I'm not going to let him get flooded because he's doing us a tremendous service. And I always believe in taking care of, my team first. And I don't really care what anybody thinks about that. That's how I am. And I'm going to always do that. So, so I want to make sure my team is, as strong as possible and capable as possible in kind of being the best version of themselves. But, for people out there, there's vets, and I really want to help the vets as much as I can, especially, those who are suffering with PTSD. And so please, feel free to reach out if you need help.
Awesome.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's good.
So, man,
we're ready.
I'm satisfied. What do you think? I think I was good. That was pretty.
Well, we covered a lot. Ad hoc. Where I don't know what we're going to talk about today. So many things are going on, but it's almost like so many things at one time. But I'm happy to hear where Kim is, right? And things. It seems always we're one step closer. So let's keep taking our steps forward. We'll get there.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of our team in Australia, these guys, who I love these guys, they're great, and they very respectfully and patiently offered some suggestions, like you should probably format things.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the kind of bullshit they're talking about, Dan. So, sorry. Anyways, no, but they were offering some suggestions about structure, so, Dan and I did talk about it. We've talked about it before, but that's why I'm going to try my best to give updates pertaining to Kim up front.
Yeah.
But, and then some people, but they were constructive and they were considerate and they have some expertise in the business. So I appreciate that, and I don't care if you have expertise, but if you have a suggestion about anything that you think is constructive, ways we can improve, at the Speak Project, which, by the way, please go to the Speak Project on YouTube and subscribe, because we're trying to break their algorithm and tip the critical mass. But whether it's on our shows on the Speak Project, or Dan and I here on the front lines, which is just another Dan's part of the same core team of Create Change and the Speak Project. If you have constructive criticism that comes from a place of wanting us to put out the best product, that's appreciated. And people that want to complain and just kind of throw negativity, I want to offer my apology that we are not doing a better job broadcasting every single day for the past 260 plus days for free, with absolutely no cost to you. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. We will try our best to do a better job so we can pander to you. And that is a lie, because we're not going to pander to anybody. And I could care less what you have to say if all you have is negativity, just for the record. So that's all I got, man.
That sounds good to me. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.